Well, this is one of the hinges, the inboard flap hinge on the left wing. I took it off there a few days ago and sandblasted it to clean it up, to inspect it and everything. And then I was going to powder coat it with some corrosion resistant primer. But when I got to inspecting it, I found a couple little cracks right here in this bracket. This bracket right here is what is riveted onto the flap false spar, and there's just a couple little teeny cracks right in there. So I've got a couple of choices. I could fabricate a new bracket here, or I could order this bracket. I don't know whether this bracket comes separately or not, but I know Univer and Dakota Cub both sell this whole assembly, this whole hinge assembly. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to TIG weld these cracks in here and build this back up, strengthen that up. Now I can flex it a little bit, and it's not bad. It's actually holding pretty good, but I just don't like that with those cracks in there. So like I said, I'm going to try TIG welding it and fixing that up and see how it works. And if I don't like the way that turns out, then we'll do something else. We'll buy a new one. Anyway, it's just a bent up piece of steel. And then it has this end on it here, and this is the pivot end. This is the end right here where the flap hooks over that, and then a pin goes through that, and this is what it pivots on. And this is riveted into this channel with some steel rivets. Well, this thing is a solid block except for this edges right here, which are machined off in a chamfer. And that's supposed to drain water out of this channel. As this channel sits like this, with this channel up, so it can get moisture in it and water in it, and those channels right there are for the water, those chamfers right there are for the moisture and water to drain out of that. Well, those are plugged up, and I've been working on that now a little bit with some different things, trying to get them unplugged. So far I haven't got it unplugged yet. Or one way to do that would be to take these rivets out, take this piece out, clean that channel out and everything, and sandblast this whole end, and then get some rivets and put it back in. But like I said, these are steel rivets, and I'd want to replace them with steel rivets, and I don't have any. I made up a little auger with some 16 thousandths welding rod and put it on the drill, and I've been kind of working on getting that stuff out, and I'm kind of making a start on it, but I want to get that cleaned out. So I mean, there's not a chance in hell water would ever build up in one of these things in this country where it rains 200 inches a year. Well, anyway, I'm going to try to TIG that. So I got my welding machine out. I haven't done this for a while, so I need to practice a little bit. I've got a piece of steel sitting out here. This is a lot thicker than that, but I'm just going to use that to practice running a few beads on and controlling my weld, get everything set up so that I can do that thing. And like I said, if I screw up on that, I can always go buy a new one. That piece had a little bit of porosity in it right there where the cracks were. I don't know how much of that was from sandblasting it and how much of it was from the rust that was in it. I took a little bit more rod in there than what I hoped. It kind of blew out in one little spot, but I got it filled up, and I just went and checked it, and it's tight now. It doesn't flex at all now. It's perfect. I just went and checked it in the fault spar, and it fits in there perfect. So that is good. I'm going to go ahead and call that good. I'm going to go ahead and take that back down and sandblast it again and powder coat it, and then it'll be ready to go back together. As you can see here, I've got copies of the blueprints for the Cub airplane. I've got them on a file in the computer. I sent that file down to my son's office, my son's shop here a few years ago when I was working on the fuselage. Had him print out some big sheets of it, which I've got hanging up on the wall. And I've used that as a reference. I used it a lot for a reference when I was working on the fuselage of the airplane and assembling it, and also for attaching the wings and reassembling the airplane when I did. Got plans for rigging the airplane, the dihedral, and all that kind of stuff. I've printed out a bunch of different sheets for different parts of the wing, and I thought I printed out the plan or the blueprint for these brackets for the hinges, but I didn't see it in my pile of papers that I've got for that. But anyway, this is the hinge. They're all the same except for different lengths, slightly different lengths and different ways that they attach, mainly to the false spars, not to the wing itself. They all have the same thing, but there's some different lengths to them between this attach point and this point here, or the eye right here where the clevis pin goes. Otherwise they're all the same. What I was going to show on there was how they described this little channel down here as being a drain channel. Well, after I sandblasted this one and I got to looking at it, I noticed that the air didn't flow through this channel, that it was plugged up. So I took a little probe and started cleaning it out, and I was getting rust and stuff to come out of it, but it would only go in so far and it quit and it tightened up, and I couldn't get it in from this side because this bracket's in the way and it's inside this channel. So I tried some different methods of getting something to get in there, and the first thing I did was I got a piece of safety wire and started probing it with the safety wire. Well, doing it by hand wasn't working too good, so I figured I would mount it up into a drill. Well, the safety wire was too small to mount in the drill. I doubled it over and twisted it, and I got it to go into the drill, but it's too flexible to really do anything. So the next thing that I tried was I got a piece of welding rod, and 32 thousandths welding rod was too big to fit in there, but 16 thousandths worked, and I was probing it with that. That was kind of working, but I just took the welding rod down, let's see the end of it, and just peened the end of it over just a little bit and made a flat spade bit out of it. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook that back up, and I had to double the end of the wire over so that it fit in the chuck on the drill. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do that and try to clean this channel out, and it's a good probability that the rest of them are going to be the same way. Oh yeah, that's starting to drill its way in there and loosen stuff up. It's going to take a little bit of work, but that's going to work now. Alright, well, my wife just showed up with a sandwich, so I guess I better stop and take a break and eat, even though I haven't done anything today yet. Well, it took a bit, but I finally got all the crap out of those drain gutters on this thing. This long one that I had to go through from the inside there was actually a little bit too flexible. I couldn't put any pressure on it. I wound up taking a shorter one, and again I hammered the end of it down flat into kind of a spade, and then sharpened it up a little bit on my little grinder. And it took a little bit at a time. I think like a millimeter, a thousandth of an inch at a time or less, and I finally got it opened up. Just fine powder. And then I took the long one and I just took the end of it and just kinked it just a little bit so that it'd go through there. I just did that with the short one now. Go through there and maybe clean up a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's getting a lot more out of it. That's got stuff coming out of it now. Oh yeah, there it comes. Try this other side. A little bit out of that side. Well, anyway, it doesn't hurt to take something like this and go through these things every once in a while and clean them out. Make sure you get all the crap and rust out of them. Otherwise, this part here just winds up being a big dam, and this whole channel can fill up with water and just stay sitting in there. Live in the desert or have a hangar where it's all the time, it's probably not too bad. But even if you're in a hangar, if you get out in the rain and fly in the rain, and if you park the airplane in the hangar, that water's just going to sit in there. Or if you wash the airplane, soap and water is going to be about the worst thing for it, because that water will dry out, and then the soap is caustic and it'll cause it to corrode. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more. And go ahead and take it down and sandblast it, powder coat it. Then I'll make sure these channels are opened up after I powder coat it. Alright, that's pretty good. Nothing coming out of it now. Alright, I'm going to take it down and sandblast it, powder coat it before it gets too dark. It's 5 o'clock out here and it's going to be dark. It's already getting dark. So I'm going to go do something while I can still see. This is the inboard flap false spar. This fairing goes over the rear spar here and here around the ribs, and it fares in the tank portion or behind the fuel tank on the inboard section of the wing. We've got some number 10 nut plates riveted in here for fastening down the rear of the fuel tank cover, and then it's got holes here, ports here, for this inboard flap hinge, and for the flap actuator rod comes through here. So this is a doubler that goes on this right in here. It was kind of wallered out here where something had been rubbing on it or something, and anyway it hadn't been cut out very square, so I cleaned this up quite a bit. This will go back in here like this and is riveted in, and then this inboard hinge goes in through here like this and is riveted onto that skin, onto that doubler, and then it has a bolt right here that goes into the rear spar to bolt it onto the rear spar. Now this was not in too bad a shape when you initially looked at it, but it had a lot of glue and stuff on it from the fabric being glued to it, and once you got the glue cleaned off of it, there was pits in here where somehow the glue, the moisture got in there and anyway caused pits. The lower portion of it looks pretty good, but this, actually this is the upper portion of it here. The lower portion of it, where it was around here and over in here, had some pits in it. So I cleaned that up, washed it down with some soap, and then cleaned it up with Alumabrite, sprayed it with some wash primer, and then a coat of this 2-part epoxy paint. So that looks pretty good now. I was going to change these nut plates in here, but once I got to looking at them, there's nothing wrong with these at all. This piece was a little bit grungy looking. I sandblasted it down lightly. It's just aluminum, and then I cleaned it up around here where it was hogged out a little bit. Powder coated it with a zinc-rich anti-corrosive primer. This is the flap hinge, inboard flap hinge, and it was the same way. It was pretty dirty. I cleaned it up and inspected it and found there was a couple little cracks right here on this attached portion here, so I welded those up. And then there's chamfers on this end piece right here that go through, and they're designed to be weep holes, drain holes, and those were plugged up. I spent a couple hours working on those and getting all the crap out of those so that they would drain. Well, anyway, this has been cleaned up and inspected, repaired, powder coated with that zinc-rich primer. Oh, it's all ready to go back together now. So the first thing I'm going to do is fit this piece in here and rivet it in. Now, rivets are sized by the 32nds, and the ones that I put in on that inboard rib were 3/32. These here, Clecos, are for number 4s, which of course are 4/32 or 1/8 inch. Oh, that's going to work. I'm going to have to drill that. Well, that's going to work. Okay, so this will go on the flap like this. This is the flap hinge, and then the rod to control it will come out here. Now, a couple of these that just go through the skin and into this little doubler I can do with my hand setter. Yeah, there's 2 rivets in there. I can't get this in there to do any of those other ones. I have to do them with a pneumatic squeezer. Let me see if my other No, ain't gonna do it. Ain't gonna do it with a hand squeezer, so I gotta go get the rivet gun. If I got the rivet gun, I gotta go get my sets, my bucking bar, get the air compressor set up and run the line in here. So that's gonna take me a little bit. That bar is not gonna make it. I gotta go get a different bucking bar for that. This bucking bar will fit. I'd rather have this bigger bar in there, some more weight, but that's just too much of an angle. Okay, that worked. Oh yeah, that worked good. Alright, we'll do the other one now. Oh yeah, that worked. I do another hit or two on that one. It wouldn't hurt anything, but it's actually pretty good just the way it is. Alright, perfect. Yeah, couldn't be any better. Alright, got some of these specialized rivet sets from Boeing surplus years ago when they were still in operation, and they come in handy once in a while. Oh, that one's good. That one's good. Oh, that one's good. Yeah. Just not quite enough of an angle on that doggone thing. No, that's not going to work. Maybe if I push it like that. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'll go see what else I got. Never know what I got. I picked up all kinds of strange things at Boeing surplus. Well, let's see what we can do here. Not quite. I could grind that one off. This one's been ground off. I could go grind that off some more, and that would work, maybe. Yeah, I could do that. Let's see what I can do with this one here. No, that one will almost work if I ground a little bit off of it. But I think this is for a number 5 rivet instead of, if I ground that tip off some more, then I can make that into a number 4 rivet. It's pretty close to a number 4. I can take that down and grind that tip off a little bit more. And then grind this back off here. Or I could grind this one off a little bit more. This one is for number 4. It's for number 5 too. See, this one I could do if I ground that one off. That one's for number 4. So if I ground this off, I could make that one work maybe. Let's see what I got to grind off on here. Oh. I thought about taking it down and heating it up and putting a little more of a bend in it, which would work, but my oxyacetylene, I'm out of gas, and the guys that sold gas in town went out of business, so there's no place to get my tanks changed. Tanks a lot, fellas. So okay, I guess that's my option. I'll take this down to the grinder and grind this off like this. We got that shank ground down once, came up and tested it. It almost worked, but I had to take it back down again and grind a little more off of this end down here. Sure would have been a heck of a lot easier if I'd have had the torch available to heat that up and just bend it, but Let's see what we do about setting that sucker. Alright, that one worked good. Now, I gotta get that other one out of there and redo it. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, maybe I can salvage it. Let me see, I'll put a bucking bar in there and try to set that one back up in there a little bit. See if I can get it. Oh yeah, that turned out okay. Cool. Cool. All right, salvage that. I thought I was going to have to drill that one out, but it turned out okay. Good. All right. Anyway, that's it. I'm happy with that. Yeah. So it goes like that. This thing sits down like this, and now I've got that channel cleaned out, so any water that builds up in there is going to run out. It's all cleaned up, nice and pretty. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I thought I was going to have to drill out and put some more rivets in there, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. Okay, that is done. That's the trailing edge. That's the rear false spar for the flap hinge. Fuel tank bay. Cool.